The Ouroboros justice, in a dimly lit room filled with photographs and clippings, an anonymous figure meticulously planned their next move. Known only as the Ouroboros, this vigilante had been on a mission to right the wrongs of a flawed justice system, targeting criminals who had walked free due to legal technicalities. Each murder was a twisted form of poetic justice, a reflection of the crimes the perpetrators had once committed. FBI Special Agent Rachel Monroe stood at the latest crime scene, a high-end penthouse overlooking the city. The victim, Jonathan Reed, had been acquitted of multiple counts of corporate fraud and embezzlement, his high-priced lawyers skillfully navigating the loopholes in the law. Now, he lay lifeless in his luxurious living room, surrounded by stacks of counterfeit money and shredded documents. Monroe's partner, Special Agent Mark Donovan, joined her, a grim expression on his face. "Another one," he said, shaking his head. "This makes the 5th in 6 months." Monroe nodded, her eyes scanning the room for any clues. "The Ouroboros isn't just killing them. He's recreating their crimes. Reed's fraudulent empire now reflected in his death scene." Donovan glanced around the room. "It's like he's trying to send us a message. He wants us to know that he's delivering his own brand of justice." Monroe sighed. "But we can't let this continue. We need to find him before more people die." The first clue, A's. Monroe and Donovan dug deeper into the case. They discovered a pattern in the Ouroboros' victims. Each one had been acquitted of serious crimes, murder, assault, fraud, due to technicalities or legal maneuvers. The victims had all been in the public eye, their cases heavily covered by the media. The Ouroboros seemed to be targeting those who had eluded justice, but the question remained, why? Monroe pored over the case files late into the night, searching for any common thread that might link the victims. Her breakthrough came when she found an old newspaper clipping tucked away in one of the files. It detailed the tragic story of a family killed in a hit-and-run accident, the driver acquitted on a technicality. The driver's name was Marcus Kincaid, a name that appeared in several of the victims' backgrounds. Monroe and Donovan visited Kincaid's last known address, a rundown apartment in a forgotten part of the city. The landlord, an elderly woman with a keen memory, remembered Kincaid well. "He was a troubled soul," she said, shaking her head. "Lost his family in a terrible accident. After that, he changed, became obsessed with justice, or what he called justice." Monroe's heart raced as she realized they were on the right track. "Do you know where he might be now?" The landlord hesitated, then nodded. "He mentioned an old cabin in the woods, said it was his retreat. I can give you the address." Closing. In the cabin was a secluded, weathered structure deep in the forest. As Monroe and Donovan approached, they could see flickering light through the windows. They moved quietly, drawing their weapons, ready for anything. Inside, they found a room, filled with evidence. Photos of the victims, detailed plans of their deaths, and a wall covered in newspaper clippings. In the center of the room stood Marcus Kincaid, his eyes wild with determination. "You found me," he said, his voice eerily calm. "I suppose it was only a matter of time." Monroe kept her gun trained on him. "It's over, Kincaid. You're under arrest for multiple counts of murder." Kincaid shook his head slowly. "No, Agent Monroe, it's not over. It will never be over as long as criminals walk free. I'm doing what the system failed to do. I'm delivering justice." Donovan stepped forward, his voice firm. "This isn't justice, Kincaid. This is murder. You're no better than the criminals you're targeting." Kincaid's eyes flashed with anger. "You don't understand. These people deserved to die. They escaped justice, and I gave it to them. I am the Ouroboros, the serpent that devours its own tail, the cycle of justice unending." The standoff Monroe's heart pounded as she realized how dangerous Kincaid had become. He was convinced of his own righteousness, willing to kill in the name of his twisted sense of justice. She needed to get him to surrender peacefully before anyone else got hurt. "Kincaid, think about what you're doing," she said, her voice steady. "You're destroying lives, not just the criminals, but their families, their loved ones. You're becoming the very thing you hate." Kincaid's expression wavered for a moment, but then his resolve hardened. "They took everything from me. My wife, my children. They died because of a flawed system. I won't stop until justice is served." Monroe took a deep breath, lowering her weapon slightly. "I understand your pain, Kincaid, but this isn't the way. Let us help you. Turn yourself in, and we can work together to make the system better. We can find a way to ensure that justice is served without more bloodshed." Kincaid's eyes filled with tears, his grip on his gun faltering. For a moment, Monroe thought he might surrender, but then he raised his weapon, aiming it at her. "I can't go back. I won't." In a split second, Donovan fired, hitting Kincaid in the shoulder. He collapsed to the floor, his gun clattering away. Monroe rushed to his side, cuffing him as he grimaced in pain. "It's over, Kincaid," she said softly. "It's time to let go." The aftermath, Kincaid was taken into custody, his reign of terror finally at an end. As Monroe and Donovan left the cabin, they couldn't shake the feeling that this case had changed them both. They had faced a man who believed he was delivering justice, a man whose grief had twisted into something dark and deadly. In the weeks that followed, Monroe worked tirelessly to review the cases Kincaid had targeted, ensuring that no more criminals slipped through the cracks. She knew the system wasn't perfect, but she was determined to make it better. The Ouroboros would be remembered as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fine line between justice and vengeance. And as long as Monroe and Donovan were on the case, they would continue to fight for true justice, one case at a time.